Hi world. I sent an email to the Prime Minister and everybody week ago, last Wednesday, and as we're, what are we, the 10th of November, it would have been, you know, go back then because it's Monday now, and there's a copy of it, it's on my blog. But it was really about bailing out people who were threatening with being repossessed by the banks, and asking government, well, why don't you stop this and pay whatever these people are owing and take a percentage of the property. Could be 25%, could be 50%, could be 75%. But at least those people wouldn't be being repossessed, kicked out on the streets, probably have to move into private landlord accommodation, because there sure as shit ain't any council work. Now, sent it to the Prime Minister, sent it to David Cameron, sent it to the usual suspects, which include media outlets like TalkSport's webmaster and Mr. George Galloway. And it's funny, on Friday show after that Wednesday of me sending the email, George Galloway had some guy ring on with a self-same idea, and Mr. Galloway said, oh, what a good idea. Mr. Galloway never sent me an email back saying, well, that was a good idea, Crazydave, because, you know, I'm a paranoid ravings or something. But it's a wonder you don't hear it being promoted in the media. I doubt that Mr. Richard Evans will ask Rodri Morgan when he meets him this coming Wednesday down the Assembly. There's the Welsh, you know, Senedd pushing so that there's no more repossessions, so the government does take a hand in it and gets capital assets for the liquidity that they're giving the banks via these mortgages that people can't afford because they've been ripped off with overpriced housing. The banks knew that if there was going to be a downturn, then all these properties would be dropping in price. They knew that, and yet they went ahead and said, oh, that's okay, you can have it at that, we'll lend you that money for that piece of crap, because you'll be in our pockets. Higher interest payments, because somebody's selling it not for 60 grand anymore, it's 120 grand. Oh, give us some of that. So yeah, copy paste this video, send it to an MP, your assembly member, wherever you live in the UK, it don't really matter, you're all being screwed, and say, excuse me, we'd like government to step in and help these people out, because they sure as shit have been helping the bank managers keep their jobs, pay off their mortgages at their nice salaries, while the rest of you are all being screwed left, right and centre. So do that for yourselves, and while you're doing it, ask, excuse me, but why have we never been offered TVs that block the BBC's signal so we don't have to pay these motherfuckers anything? You never see documentaries on how many people have been imprisoned because of the BBC. How many women have had their kids put in care because they couldn't afford to pay this and the electricity it costs to run and watch it for their kids. How many people have been fined for these lot. And yet Mr. Richard Evans doesn't want to ask questions about that. Like he doesn't want to ask questions about Rodney Berman at Cardiff County Council and the shit housing that they provide for their tenants below minimum standards. So yeah, people, if you're interested in anything, start copy pasting these, send them to your assembly members, send them to your MPs and say, I'd like to know an answer to that question. What are you doing about that? Are you asking any questions at Prime Minister's Question Time? Excuse me, why are my constituents still being repossessed? See what they got to say, and hopefully you copy paste it, you send it to him, put it on the comments on YouTube, and we can have millions of them on there. And then maybe we'll get around to having a public inquiry about Judge Higginbottom and the tribunal service that he makes a nice income out of being the chief of. So yeah, I see last week they were talking about winter payments for people who've got physical health problems. You ain't never seen, never heard, I ain't never heard of the mental health charities ever asking government to give winter fuel payments for people with mental health problems. If you're fortunate, you might get DLA. If you're fortunate, you might get disability allowance. Hell of a lot of them don't. Hell of a lot of them are marginalised, put in shit multi-dwelling tenancies where they're ripped off by everyone left, right and centre, and mind the so-called charity there to promote or represent them. I've never heard them ask for that. So most of them will be, like me, putting lots of clothes on, not putting much heating on. But there we go, this is the loving society that we all subscribe to.